I think one of the things that's different from my mom's, like when I don't even say when she was my age, I would just say maybe when she was younger than what my age would be coming up, was I think there was an expectation that you will be married. I think that there was an expectation that you will have a family. I don't think that women of my mother's age back then anticipated work being the way it is now, like the work force being the way it is, the fact that they would have to work for as long as they have to work. So I think that that's a major difference, is that work thing I think is really hard for Black women that's my mom's age.
The employment opportunities weren't as open as they are today. But what is the same is that we're still being paid lower in income. So that hasn't changed. Also, education. There's more women that are graduating from high school that are getting their bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees in high numbers today. Also, what's different today, there are more women becoming entrepreneurs.
One of the differences between my generation and my mother's generation, there were fewer choices in terms of what a woman could do, period, let alone a Black woman. You know, there were certain, if a woman was going to go to school and get an education, there were certain fields, you know, that she went into. There wasn't a whole lot of choice. Whereas now, I think we have more freedom and more choice than ever. I know for me, growing up, one of the mantras I heard over and over from my mother's mouth was, you need to get an education and get a job so that you'll always be able to take care of yourself and you won't have to depend on anyone.
I would have to say that I feel like back then, Black women did more because they felt that they had to. You know, you got married because you were pregnant. You got married because you were getting older, or you didn't want to be single, or pressure from your family, or you know, you may have become a housewife because certain situations didn't allow you to do exactly what you wanted to do. And I feel like, of course, on the backs of our ancestors and our parents and grandparents, we now have more available to us. I feel like the mindset of the Black woman as a whole has changed. We're now doing what we want to do. We are moving into areas that, again, people didn't expect us to move into. You know, since '97 up until now, here in 2015, you know, more women, I think 74% of businesses are being started by women. And Black women, so far as entrepreneurship is concerned, has increased by 322% in that same 18-year time frame. That speaks a lot to where we are as a group, where we are as a people.
I think that my mother had a lot of things decided for her and felt like she was in a position to only accept those things that were decided for her. And she has created an environment where I can make a lot of my choices myself, and I'm not bound by some of those expectations of motherhood and domesticity and that kind of thing. I think that the images that we get to see of ourselves are different. And I think, like, with one of the really exciting things about today and about social media is that there's an opportunity for more people to have a platform, to have a voice. And in decades past, there are a lot of people who had a lot of things to say, but not a lot of platforms that would allow them to say them.
I think the difference between back when my mother was my age is that we're angry in a different way. I think that we are not afraid to speak up and take that chance, so to speak, to cross that line and stand for what our rights are. You know, I think back in the civil rights time, they did do that, but I think and I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone that was raised back then. It just maybe to me it seems that they were a little bit more hesitant to cross that line, to be as firm and to not worry about the consequences, to stand on it and live and fight for your birthright. you know. So I think we're just a little more angrier and ready to say enough is enough.
The difference between my mom's struggle as a Black woman and mine is just in your face community violence. And I am happy to live here in the Old Fourth Ward, where I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people who have been here for generations, but I'm also surrounded by white people that are moving in and trying to gentrify and trying to change a lot of our culture.
One of the things I think that's the same is that on a large scale, I grew up in a household where my mother was always fighting for justice. But the difference in that fighting has been that it was concentrated at that time when she was my age around race. And now I feel like for me, it's concentrated around a lot of other identities and the oppression that occurs around a lot of identities. So the fight for me has been much more, the scope has been much expanded, and my awareness even of, as I said before, as my womanness and my Blackness has really come up. I mean, in those days, I feel like when she was my age, that the concentration was just on being Black and what that meant, and all of the gender stuff got pushed underneath or was invisible totally.
I think the difference is we are more outspoken in our what we feel should be our life choices, how we want society to view us. I think we don't really care as much as my mother's generation. Not saying that that's a good or a bad thing, but I think we're a little bit more bold with our choices now.